Hi, this is Dr. Rosemary Hyde, Karen Rowe, and Sumaya Nabi. And we're going to share our discussion with you this morning it's the final discussion about identity. And I will share my screen and we're going to kind of look at everything about identity. And if you want to, get a pencil and paper, and as we go through things, write down what you really believe about and what you want to believe about who you are, because we need to decide for ourselves that, okay, I choose this aspect of my identity, this aspect of what I received from others. And right now I don't like this other aspect, so I'm not going to endorse it. We need to feel good about who we stand up as with other people. And this is the last discussion that will be based on this book that we've been working with for the last couple of months, The Impact of Identity by Irina Nevzlin. Next week, we'll start with chapter 1, I think. Let me just double check. A lot of books have, yeah. So let's start with the introduction, which is called Thinking Outside the Brain. And the book is The Extended Mind. By Annie Murphy Paul. So I hope you're able to get hold of this book one way or another, online or as a book or however used. Doesn't matter. Any way you can get it, it will be helpful to be able to read along. And it's also really good for English learning, to be able to read stuff, because it increases everybody's, even us who speak English, everybody's vocabulary. And so I'm going to share my screen. These are and there's quite a long list, the concepts and the circumstances that can contribute to our identity. And as I said, it's important to accept the things about our identity that we're going to answer to, that we're going to have in our consciousness. So if there's something about your birthplace or your birth family or what you studied in school, or, that after the fact, as an adult, you can't be okay with, it's better to change it, to change that aspect. And like many, many people, for instance, at least certainly in the United States, and I've learned in many parts of the world, have several ethnic or national identities in their families. Their parents came from different religions or different regions or different social classes or whatever. And we can choose, if we have several possibilities, we can choose which one we're going to express, or at least accept which one we obviously express. For me personally, my ethnic origins the biggest pieces of them are Irish and English. But since I had red hair and I apparently look Irish, I have come to a point where I've accepted, okay, I look Irish, my background is Irish. I grew up Catholic. I have not, as an adult, felt comfortable remaining in that identity. So I have shifted my religious allegiance, if you will, to one that is more spiritual and interfaith. That's the choice that I made because I was not comfortable with everything about being Catholic and saying that I'm Catholic, because I don't. I'm not Catholic. I don't actually believe what I learned, everything that I learned growing up. So, you know, it's an interplay. Our identity is an interplay between aspects of our origin, of our background, and what we have come to subscribe to accept. We've talked about this in earlier classes. So if you want to, the ethnicity, religion, I have learned over time. I was the first, the eldest, the firstborn in a family of girls. And I found it very interesting that most of the people I'm close to are the oldest in a family with girls. Not everybody, but a lot of people. That seems to be a part of my identity that comes through. It's not one that I subscribe to particularly. There's no special beliefs about it for me, but we seem to recognize each other. So I guess that's a part of my identity that is evident to people. And then there's our profession or our occupation, which has an element of what we received from our family and also an element of personal choice. Did we follow what we received from our family, or have we gone out and qualified ourselves for a different occupation or profession? A lot of people have done both. So write down, if you will, what from that list describes you.
For all the questions, or?
Oh, from question 1, yeah.
Oh, okay.
I mean, we're going to go down this list of questions, so yes, but we'll do it one by one. So, Sumaya, do you want to share 1 or 2 family of origin facts about you?
Okay, I think for me, number 2 can define me and my family.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, and Afghanistan is mostly famous for its cultures.
Yes.
And its language as well.
Mm-hmm.
And whenever we are somewhere and telling that we are Afghans, and they want us to share about our culture.
Oh.
And our religious community, yeah, we are Muslim.
Right.
And yeah, that's it. And
Yes.
level of education, most of Afghans, as they as they all had lived like they don't need to go to university or a school to have a higher education, so they all live like they had a shop. uh, some of them had businesses, and now in these last decades, Afghans go to school and university to educate themselves, and I
Right.
think their level of education is a medium, what we can say,
Okay. So for you
average
personally,
level. It's
for
an
you,
average level.
how about you? You're Afghan.
Okay, for
You're,
me,
yeah. Yeah, you.
yeah, for me, personally, number 7, ways of dealing with
Okay.
challenge and problems.
Okay. Tell us a little bit.
Yeah.
So what does everybody who
Because here
knows you
in Afghanistan,
know
living,
about you and how you deal with problems and challenges?
yeah, living in here is not easy because parents learn their children in here to always deal with problems, solve problems. If we don't solve them, they will kill us, like something like this. And we
Yes.
should solve our problems, and we should go ahead. We should continue as the life is with us. And yeah,
Right.
and as I learned from my parents, I always try to solve problems, because when I stop somewhere, life is an ongoing river, and when I stop somewhere, that river will continue and take me with it.
That's
So I
correct.
should continue, and yeah.
Yep. Okay. So when the people who know you the best, what do they know about your way of dealing with challenges and problems? Do they know that you keep going no matter what? Or do they know that you have a great sense of humor and can always see the funny side of things? Or do they know that you are very quiet and think a lot, and then you just have it solved and go on your way? Or do they know that you really get along with everybody and you always have a lot of people around you? These are all examples of how we
Okay.
are as individuals. Yes. So how about you?
Okay. Um, as I don't know about what my friends think about me, but one of them, but almost all of them, when I was at class, they told me that you're invincible, and you're not going to give up very soon.
Not going to give up.
And yeah, I
Okay.
know, just telling me this.
Very good. Okay.
Yeah.
Abu, how about you? As you look at that, I mean, there's 2 more pages of questions, but let's just look at these. What can you tell us about you as an individual in any of these areas? Can you tell us about you in any of these areas? For instance,
So I was saying that I see myself as someone who really care about culture and languages, and also about religions. So if I said that I really care about culture, meaning that I will not judge anyone about his culture, saying that your culture is not good, about all these things, about languages. This is something that I really like. This is something I really want to know more. This is not English that I'm learning. I'm also learning other languages like German
Oh,
and Japanese. Yes,
wow,
I want
awesome.
also discover new things. Yes,
Okay,
this is why I'm really focusing about languages. Yes.
that's okay. That's really kind of special. You are somebody that really enjoys and is interested in different languages and cultures. Okay, so that's kind of also something about number 3 for you, correct?
Sorry, could you please repeat the question?
I think what you said also relates to number 3.
No, I had picked number 2 and number 7.
Okay, go ahead on 7 then.
Yes. Ways of dealing with challenges as problems. I
Right.
have my way to to deal with such things. So I try to be calm and try to think how I can fix the things. So I sometimes go to person who are older than me to ask them about their opinion about what I'm going to do. So this is a
No, he'll come back. Over time, I've observed that Abu is extraordinarily patient, as we just witnessed. We'll see what else he says. Karen, do you want to weigh in on a couple of these for yourself?
I'll say a couple of things. I'm not just going to pick one because they're associated one to the other in a lot of cases, but
Yeah,
just in general, I would say that for me personally, I'm an explorer spiritually and exploring the world that I live in. I enjoy that. I love learning about other cultures and what people do and why they do it, and so that's one of the perks that I have, and one of the reasons I like attending these classes is because I do learn that by hearing other people talk about how they handle things. I'm also a problem solver, but I'm not a think on your feet problem solver. I like to have a plan, and I like a little bit of structure in that plan. So that's kind of, and you can't always solve problems that way, you know.
can't always solve problems anyway. I mean, there's
that's true.
there's different things that work in different situations.
That's true, but I have learned that I like to have a plan. If I'm going into a big problem or a big something needing a bigger solution, I like to have steps to follow and look at those and kind of process it if I can.
Mhm.
And I am very good at writing and editing. I love music and I know a lot about music. That was one of my majors. And I love teaching. I love walking in the woods. And there's not a lot I don't love about living. So
Right. So that speaks to number 6, how you are in the world. No?
yeah. So is that enough?
At 5.
I mean, I could talk longer, but I think I'd rather hear others.
Okay, Abu, do you want to finish?
Yes. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Yes. I was saying to deal with challenges, I make a plan. Why I don't know what is going to happen in the future. I can always plan ahead. And I also know that I am not alone. Everyone in this world has their low points. I also need to ask help about how I can do better than what I'm doing right now. Yes. And also
Right.
accept the support of others.
Right. And that's a very important thing to be aware of and to be willing to do. Because when people try to do everything all by themselves, they tend to create problems for other people. Thank you very much, Habu.
Thank you.
Hi, Tasmia.
Hello, ma'am. How are you?
I am doing great. Thank you. Can you see the questions on the screen?
Yes, ma'am.
We've been talking, everybody has shared a little bit about what's special about them in terms of any of these questions. You know, what do your friends know about you? What do they think about when they think of you? I don't know if you can read quickly enough to pick out a couple of questions that you'd like to share about with yourself. But please do if you feel comfortable doing that.
Yes, sure, ma'am. My ethnicity is I am a Bangladeshi, and my religion is I am Muslim. And I have one sister. And my profession now, my profession is I am a student, full-time student, and a voluntary teacher as well. And my culture is Bengali culture, and my language is Bangla. And my level of education is right now I'm doing my master's in Brack University in Texel. And my personal mission is I would love to teach children and adults, and I want to be a teacher, a paid teacher. That's it. And my gender is I am a female, and my traits is my characteristics and traits is I am honest, and I am sympathetic and empathetic to others. And my role in society is a lot of times I play a huge role in society by showing sympathy to other animals and human beings and some childs. And I stand for humanity. Sometimes I stand for my religion as well. That's it. That's all about me. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay. Wow. Thank you. That was a wonderful resume. And that's a good example of when you write down, who are you, and answer these questions. It will sound like you in that way. Okay. So let's move on to the next page. This is all about how we shape our lives. We actually are, as long as we're alive, we're shaping our life, we're shaping our experience. And we're making choices. For instance, how do we feel about change? Now we're not talking about our external, what people can see about us and what we have received from the outside. Now we're talking about the path that we're following, the discoveries that we're making, the choices that we're making about what are we going to stand up about? What are we going to say, I am on this side. I stand for this. And how do we deal with change? Life is change. As long as we're alive, things are going to be changing. And sometimes we're delighted, and sometimes we're like, oh no, you know, I don't want to make this change. But we have to say, okay, what am I going to do when things change? When my income changes, when my strength changes, when my abilities change, when my education changes, when life changes. So what do you do when you're faced with a change? How do you respond to it? Based on what you have already said about yourselves, I can guess for some of you what your first action is likely to be, but it's a good thing to identify for yourself. And Irina Nevzlin also made the point very, very, in a very extended way in the book, that immigrants have to adapt extremely to change. Everything changes when you move from one culture to another or one country to another, especially if it's far away. And the characteristic, the quality, the personal quality that immigrants exemplify, demonstrate for us is resilience or resiliency, which basically is adaptability. How well can I adapt in a situation that I wasn't expecting? And to the extent that you have ever lived away from your native place, your native culture, whether it's city to rural or vice versa, or, you know, an actual change of country, or going to university from home, or I don't know what changes you have experienced, but you've gotten to know yourself most likely in a situation of change. And how do you deal with it? How resilient are you? What's your pattern of resilience? Anybody?
I think for me, it depends on the change and
Okay.
and how dramatic it is. I know my sister relocated a short time ago, and my initial response was, oh no, it was emotional, you know, and there was nothing really I could do about it. But she found another person that she loves very much and has moved to a place she loves very much. And over time, I've just grown to really love that that's where she is, you know, even though I miss her. So I don't know what, you know, the process was with that, but it did take a long time before I felt, I love where you are. It's great, but I miss you sometimes. I'll come and see you, you know. So it's to that, but it took a while.
Well, sometimes it does. And, you know, that's the way that we do it, becoming aware of how we adapt. What do we need to do before we can come to that point of saying, okay, this change is good, is a way of knowing yourself. Anybody else? Hi, Ahmed. Okay, so Anybody else want to talk about their resilience? Anything that, kind of knocked you down and you got up after and kept going? That's a demonstration of resilience. Anyone else want to talk about resilience?
Ma'am, I think we should adapt our changes, because sometimes our creator tried to teach us some things that we cannot understand properly. That is ambiguous, I can say. So I think we all should adapt the changes. And for an example, such as I am learning, I'm doing a master's in English, but as well as I have an interest for in some computer science and engineering topics such as graphic design. So I think by learning graphic design, it will create a new incoming source. It can be a new incoming source for me. So I think we should adapt the changes.
Yes, good. Right. Okay. Anybody else? I mean, I, for instance, have had a couple of illness experiences where, recovery and going on has meant I've needed to change the kinds of things that I've done and how I've done them. And, figured out ways to do them differently and keep going. Occupational changes sometimes do that to us. If we, for instance, lose a job or an occupation and need to adapt to doing something else to make a living. That's, that's a test of resiliency. And the people that keep going, that don't get, knocked over and stop changing, those are the people that have a real life, that, keep having an interest in life. So resiliency is really an important skill, characteristic. And, it's important to adapt to thinking of ourselves as resilient. I forgot where I saw it. Dang. There was a series of 7 questions that I think I've lost it. I'm not going to find it. That was part of a research project. And the questions were things like, okay, how well do you bounce back when you are, when you encounter a problem? Do you yeah. Anyway, so another thing that we can do to develop resiliency is developing internal boundaries. So this refers to, we all know, we all have a role in our families, with our friends, and we give up what we want to do sometimes because somebody else needs us to be some other way. If we're a caregiver, if we're a parent, if we're an older sibling, if we're a teacher, if, we have responsibilities. And there's always a tension between what other people need us to do and what we have to do for our own basic health, our own basic peace of mind. And a lot of people, a lot of women especially, tend to have learned that it wasn't important to take care of ourselves. We had to take care of other people first. But eventually we come to a point where we realize, I can't keep doing that. Or the other extreme is people who are very tuned in to what they themselves need and pay no attention to other people and what they need. So imbalance in either of those directions means that we're not living a happy, calm, peaceful, successful life. Our needs, we have to take care of ourselves so that we can turn around and help others. Does anyone have experience they'd like to share about having done that? I think it's often when people are older that this transition happens. Like parents, for instance, eventually come to a point where they say, okay, I know that my children need ABC, but I have to take care of my needs. I have to have enough rest. I have to be well nourished. I have to be healthy before I can help them. Does this sound familiar to anyone? If not, I can move on. I think most of you are in a stage where number 3 applies, where you're discovering your personal identity versus the identity that you've been given from your family, from your parents, from your relatives, from your community, from your spiritual place. And it's important to figure out, okay, does that work for me? I've already said this. And if not, what does work for me, so that we can stand as who we are and be comfortable with that. And then there's the inner voice. To establish our true personal identity, we need to believe our inner voice. So if we've got, and if we have a knowing inside and a little nudging voice or knowing that says, you really should be going to school. You really need to start a job. You really need to pay more attention to your parents. Whatever your inner voice is telling you, it's important to listen to that and to believe it and to do what that higher self inner voice is telling us, even if other people don't understand why you're choosing to do what you're choosing to do. And sometimes we get labeled based on that. We get labeled as rebellious or too conservative or too liberal or too TOO something. And that is a label, which means someone else is deciding what you look like. But labels come from outside us, and they aren't our identity. Sometimes they might be accurate, in which case we can say, yeah, okay, that's what I am. But a lot of times, the labels come from people who don't understand what's really going on. And then we need to say, wait a minute, that is not true. And say what is true. So we have all kinds of things that we got from our birth and from our experiences, and also from the gifts that we have received and from the traumas that we have had to deal with. All of those things go in to making our identity. And we're totally free to accept and express what we feel is right for us. And that's an important basis for being well balanced and, more or less sane and, a reasonable person. Comments, questions? Let's think for a minute about the conflict that's going on in Ukraine.
I'm not updated about the conflict in Ukraine and Russia.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
I don't know literally what situation is currently going on between both of those countries. Because I do job, I have lots of work. I just have some time so I can join this meeting.
Right.
I'm responsible for my family. I am the elder brother in my family.
Right. So you haven't had a chance to watch or hear the news, is that correct?
No, yeah, I couldn't have the time. I did not have time to watch
Okay.
news or
Well,
social media.
Yeah, basically, Russia already invaded Ukraine 7 years ago in 2014 and took parts of that country. And now they're doing it again. And it appears that Ukraine, since that first experience, has shifted their awareness about themselves as a separate country in those 7 years. Because, yeah, it happened 7 years ago, but it wasn't a major confrontation. Russia got in and got out pretty fast and took parts of Ukraine. And there wasn't a lot of resistance. Now, the Ukrainians are saying, this is our country. You have no right to invade us. You have no right to take parts of our country. So they have a much better sense of themselves as a nation, as a people, separate from the Russians. Many Ukrainians speak Russian. They're very close in terms of their culture and their language and the terrain and the weather and the culture. But there's one important thing about Russia that the Ukrainians have decided in the interim, hey, wait a minute, we don't want to be part of Russia. We want to be a republic and elect our own government. So
Oh, thank you.
they're putting up a big resistance.
Yeah, thank you for this information. Now I think I have much better information about the current situation of Ukraine and Russia.
Right. And it's worth thinking about how identity, how a sense of identity plays in to this world conflict. It's about
Could you please-
identity.
Yeah, it's about identity. They want their identity. So everybody has right to get his or her identity. So like Ukraine, if they are deserving for their identity, so they should have their identity and they can fight for it. Maybe I'm making some mistakes in English because I'm still in learning period.
What?
I'm saying that maybe when I speak English, so maybe I make some mistakes in English language because it's not my mother tongue. My original language
Yeah,
is
right.
Urdu. So kindly forgive me if I make any mistake.
Yeah, it's okay.
Thank you.
So do you see how identity makes a big difference? How a sense of identity makes a big difference in how we respond to things? This is true individually as well. And then the other thing to think about is there are identity issues going on all over the world. Russia and Ukraine isn't the only example. You know, the issue of Democrats and Republicans in the US, the issue of people whose skin is white as opposed to people whose skin is darker worldwide, the issue of religion, and how when religions come together, how they feel about each other. Can they believe that it's okay, that all religions are really about the same issues, but in different language? Can we see the beauty in people of other languages, other religions, other cultures? These are really important questions to ask about identities and how we experience our identity in the context of being a peacemaker. That's really what it comes down to. How can we have our own identity and be a peacemaker? It's possible. But we need to be open-minded about our identities and realize that, in fact, whatever our identities, we're all humans. We have a lot in common. We're all earthlings, inhabitants of Earth. We're all expressions of some greater intelligence and love. That's also an important aspect of our identities, is one, identity that we all share. So that is the next level of recognizing identity, is first to recognize and be at peace with our identity as an individual, and then to let go some of that individual identity, to recognize that we have a more powerful identity as humans, as residents on Earth. So we've skimmed the surface of identity, and it's a very, very important subject to become aware of and to think about, and to keep learning about, and keep our resiliency about. Okay. Anybody want to say anything specific or special before we end?
Okay, ma'am, those lines you said, it actually touches my heart, that when you said everybody has right to live, and everybody has right to live, create their own identity, and we all are same. Our religions, religions talks about peace, but in different language. It actually touches my heart, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Tasmia.
Yeah, I also wanted to discuss about that. Miss Tasmia was discussing about that. All religions teaches us that we should make peace between all of them, and there is because as being a Muslim, I know the last element of our Holy Prophet. There is explained that there is no superiority on the Arab on non-Arab, Arabic people on non-Arabic, and non-Arabic on Arabic. There is no superiority, all are equal. The superiority, the one who have the fear of God, just, and there is superiority for the person who has fear of God. Otherwise, all are equal.
Right.
I really appreciate your this line, because all religions teach us peace.
Yes. So that is the vision that we're working with, and the question that we're learning and debating and sharing and discussing and living, how to live more authentically and be peacemakers, be very aware of ourselves as agents for peace around us and in our thoughts.